All right, but my name is Samantha Bowers. I'm the consultant for continuing education here at the State Library of Iowa. I'm going to take us through some of this beginning stuff today, but then we're also going to be hearing a lot from my fabulous colleague in the Central District, Mary Ann Morey, who is a Des Moines resident and longtime adult programmer extraordinaire at a number of different libraries around. She's got some great ideas for us today. And then I have only glowing things to say about Nancy, not only because she's my boss, but she really is a spectacular librarian as well. Nancy Medema, Program Director here at the State Library of Iowa. So with that, what's next, Mary Ann?
Well, this is our roadmap of what we're doing today. And don't look at this from the side. This is not a series of hills to climb and valleys to lament as you dip down into them. This is an overview, an aerial view of the path we're going to take today. The road is simple, but it's interesting enough that it's going to keep you going and keep you alert. And as Sam mentioned, she's going to give us a quick view of the resource guide. We'll talk a little bit about the theme because there's some exciting things that you can do with this theme. And then we're going to do a lot of, Sam said 2, but actually I think we have 4 times we're going to let you interact with your colleagues, do some brainstorming, and come up with some ideas to share with the whole group on these 4 areas that you really need to focus on in order to have a successful program. And incidentally, they all begin with the letter P. I just love alliteration. We're going to talk about programming, participation, prizes, and promotion in that order. So Sam, take us away with this resource guide.
Yeah, so the iRead program calls this a resource guide, not a manual. So I have a quick poll for us here. You should see a poll up on your screen. How are we doing with the resource guide? I haven't downloaded it at all yet. I downloaded it, I think, started paging through it, and I practically have the thing memorized. No one has it memorized yet, which is probably just fine. We do have, after all, several months until summer.
It is still January, correct?
Yeah, it's still January. Well,
It is
not much more of January.
Not much.
Laura asked a question in the chat. Is there a separate manual for adult programming? And Laura, there is not, but we are going to talk about where to find stuff within the manual. Okay, we've got 92% reporting. It looks like an even 1/3 of all of you, kind of one way or another. So close to 17 of you, 27% have not downloaded it yet. If you have not downloaded it yet, you need to get in touch with your director. They should have received an email in November with a code, and each library can redeem that code once. Once you have it downloaded, you may put it anywhere you want, on a flash drive, on 9 flash drives, on a shared drive, on your desktop, in your printer, whatever works for you. But each library will download that code once. It was sent to directors on, I believe, November 16. So your director is the first person to start with. If you are the director and you did not receive the code, you need to get in touch with Angie Manfredi and she'll help you sort that out.
Actually, you can contact your district consultant.
Oh, okay.
We have that information too.
So contact your district consultant.
Better to contact us because Angie probably will be overwhelmed with youth services people contacting her.
Yeah. Good. So when you do get that file, it takes a very long time to download. I think Marianne said it took her several hours.
Hours. It came up and it said, this will take 7 hours. I thought 7 hours and I'll be logging off work by then. It did download a little faster than that, but it did take quite a while. It's a very large file.
So these are, yeah, it's 2 humongous files. I was on the State Library's main campus when I downloaded it, and we have spectacular internet there. And it took me probably a good 30 minutes. And we have some fantastic speeds there. At home, it would have taken, hours and hours. Because my home internet is not Great. But once you do, you have 2 zip files, and you're going to get a copy of these slides at the end, and there's a link there that says how to use zip files with Windows. I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but it had been a while since I had worked with zip files, and I forgot that you have to extract them all first. So if you want to look at the graphics, right-click on that graphics folder and then extract all. You can save them to a local spot that way. You can do a lot without formally extracting them, but if you want to rename any files or copy and paste anything, that extract all step is going to be helpful. So there's going to be one zip for graphics, which you can see towards the bottom right of this screen, and one zip for the resource guide. And that 2021 resource guide PDF files where the arrow is pointing in this image, that's going to be kind of your main jumping off point for all things resource guide E. The 2020 Tule spot art, that's the art that they've labeled as all ages, and we're going to get into that just a little bit more as we go through this presentation. But all of the art is very, very good. I think all of it is very age friendly. So when you are in that manual file, there's this using this guide page, which I kind of liked. So numbers 1 through 8, there are the different chapters that they have, and they haven't necessarily pulled everything out by age, but within each chapter, you're going to see different indications of what they think is appropriate for different ages. And of course, you as the librarian and the expert in your community always have the option to tweak something to make it work for whatever ages. But of course, for this particular training right now, oops, and I lost the share, we're going to be looking at things that are labeled as AA, for all ages, F for family, and A for adult. So if you're specifically interested in adult programming, that's where you want to head, or those are the icons you're going to want to look for.
And I'm just going to add that so many of the ideas are usable for multiple ages. So if you see it say T for teen, don't go, oh, that's not for me because I'm only working with adults. Take a look at some of those ideas because a lot of these can work as is for different age groups, or with a slight tweak, they could be modified to use for a different age group. So. Well, let's see.
So here's an example of a program that they have for adults. And we're talking a lot about programming today. And so I put this example in here just because it's a softball. The theme is colors, reading colors your world. And so, of course, you've already thought about having a coloring program, probably. So I'm not giving away the farm here by showing you this example, but you can see the little A logo for adults. So, and of course, there's no reason why you couldn't do this for teens or preschoolers or anything else, of course. So that's a good reason too, to just kind of not take anything at face value, but always do a little investigating. There's so much good stuff in the manual. Okay, so these are some of the graphics. I showed you a screenshot of what that graphics folder looked like. The pre-K art is that little, is by Oliver Jeffers, who you might know from The Day the Crayons Quit. It's that little exploding crayon. I just loved him so much. The children's art is exemplified by the flower and book page there. It's by Gigi Morales. And then the teen art by Zach Lehner, and the all ages art by Herv Tule. And of course, Angie and many of my other colleagues know a lot more about these individual artists than I do, but there is also a lot of information on them in the manual. And I really can't encourage this enough. When you get those zip files, poke around and go exploring. You cannot break anything. You will not get a virus from this stuff. Like, open every file and look through it. Explore what's there, use what's there. This art is for you to use and enjoy this summer and beyond. Stuff that you like, you have the rights to it now. And if you like it a lot, do it again in the winter, or put it on a different thing, or use it at another program. It's all available.
And you can use any of it for any age group. If Sam didn't make that clear enough, here's now. If you really like what the pre-K designs look like, run with that and use it for all ages. This is a quote that came out of the manual that I thought was too good not to include on our slides. It's on page 4 if you want to know where it is. And just kind of keep this thought in mind as we go through this. You don't have to be perfect. And as Angie has said in her sessions, you should not be comparing yourself to other libraries and other librarians. But I think just keep this thought in mind. Try to be a rainbow in one other person's cloud. I think every librarian is capable of that. So the theme, in case you haven't heard and in case you haven't noticed, the theme this year is Reading Colors Your World. Now, why do we have a theme in the first place? Well, personally speaking, from doing programming for a variety of ages for several years, even before I entered the library field, I think it's easier to plan when you have a theme, when you have a topic, and you can just run with it. Samantha compared this to having a car. You can take that car anywhere you want. This is not a roadblock. This is not a self-propelled vehicle that only takes you on one track. This is your car, your theme. You can run with this any way you want to go. So these are a few of the avenues we thought of that you could take for the phrase, the term of color. Reading colors your world. Obviously, the literal sense of the color of the rainbows, the color of an artist's palette, and you can do all kinds of fun things with that. It can represent diversity in a multiple arena of different ways and programs. Think of all the colors that appear in nature, in flowers and birds and fruits and vegetables. Fashion and art with jewelry and clothing colors and home decor. Lots of people took on home decor projects with COVID. I think gray is not going to be the permanent color for the new year, personally speaking. Actually, I heard a news article about that recently too, and that's what was being said on that by some experts, that no, we think gray is out.
They're getting away from the whitewashed everything too.
Yeah, the sterile look. So people want some color in their homes now. The media, if you think about movies that maybe have a black and white element and suddenly transition to color, we'll talk about one of the major ones here, or movies that came out in black and white and have since become colorized. Also talking about the red versus blue, community discussions and media literacy, lots of good opportunities to have some really educational, thought-provoking programming. What else? Anybody else? Any ideas that you could run with this color theme?
Let's hear it in chat, or you can unmute. We've got about 75 people in the room. If all 75 of you talk at once, we'll have a problem. But usually that's not what happens. So let's hear it in chat. What did we forget? What else can we think about with colors? School colors. Oh, Chris, I love it.
That's nice, especially if you're in an area that has multiple school systems. Or yeah, you could talk about the history. Why is purple your school's color? Good idea. College pro sports teams too. They all have different colors of their teams, so you could do some fun things with that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? That's a great idea. All right, we're going to trust that your lunch is going to kick in here shortly and your brain cells are going to produce some fantastic ideas, because our first talk in our discussion rooms, our breakout rooms, is going to be programming. Programming, what are we going to do to involve the community? This might be entertainment, it might be educational, it might be passive programming. Can you do it indoors? We still don't really know what will happen in the summer with COVID aspects, but I would recommend planning indoor, outdoor, passive, online, lots of considerations. And a lot of the ideas that we have are tweakable, that you can modify them for various circumstances. So we are going to go into breakout rooms, and Samantha, I think you're going to explain a little bit more about how this will work, but regardless of which room you're assigned to, as a group, you're going to come up with 2 ideas on your variation of a theme. The theme is color. The variation is your assigned topic for your room.
Yeah, so we have 3 facilitators, Nancy and Marianne and myself, and I will be sticking you into random breakout rooms. And let's see, so room 1, Marianne will facilitate that room, and you guys are going to come up with 2 ideas on the theme of colors. or
Colors,
programs. We're talking about
think of your Crayola
programming.
box.
Yeah, we're talking about programming specifically this time. My room is going to talk about sort of the color that exists around us in the form of diversity, and Nancy's room will be talking about nature-based colorful programming. So as we split into these rooms too, as Marianne mentioned, when you're coming up with program ideas, think about COVID considerations. Could you do this inside? Could you do this outside? Could you do this socially distanced? Could you add a Zoom? That sort of thing. And then the next consideration, because we did not divide this program on library size like we did the other ones, talk in your room about how this would work if you were a big library. How would this work if you were a small library? Can you involve other people? Could you collaborate with someone? That kind of thing. So I'm going to launch our breakout rooms now, I think. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. There will be about 25 of us in each room. So don't be afraid to turn those mics on. It is kind of a big space, but I think we'll manage okay. Let's see, and Nancy, let's see. So
Sam,
Marianne needs to be in room 1.
Sam, can you
And she
clarify, are we
is.
using
Yep.
Jamboards?
We are not,
Okay.
but we can, maybe Marianne and Nancy and I will be our note takers throughout here,
Yep,
and we can
I've
just
got my
make sure to
notebook ready.
take good notes, and we'll make sure to facilitate those out. So I'm just making sure that we've got everyone in the right spaces here. Pardon me. Nancy, I don't see you on my list. Where are you hiding? Oh, there you are. Okay, Nancy, I'm going to move you to room 3. Okay, here we go, everyone. We'll see you in the breakout rooms, and we're going to spend, what, about 12 minutes or so in here, and we'll come 10, 12 minutes, and we'll come back together, all right?
And we get a warning, right, when we're coming back?
Yes, you're going to get a 15-second countdown. Welcome back, everyone. We're coming back into this room muted, and Nancy and Marianne will be muted too, just as a heads up. I got cut off. I talked too long in mine. This is good. This is a good lesson for me.
Okay, I had a good group.
I did too.
So do you want me to start with a recap from my room?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, painting parties, which can definitely be done online. This is something that could involve teens and adults. Somebody is looking at an idea of using plastic forks to paint. So that sounded kind of cool.
Marianne, you're breaking in and out.
I was going to say, I'm having audio issues with yours, but I don't know if other people are.
Okay.
Okay, yep.
Okay, am I okay now? Did you hear about the painting parties?
Yes, but not, there's something about forks, and I'm always interested in flatware.
Plastic forks being used to paint and replicate Van Gogh's Starry Night. So kind of a cool idea. Somebody else has, she's going to get the link. She said, a person on Facebook who has free online tutorials, painting tutorials. So if the library were to provide the supplies and then the link to that, you've got a ready-made program there. Another one mentioned adult finger painting. How fun is that? We also talked about the possibility of some STEM programs for adults revolving around the colors in a prism, and there are some online resources for that. Paint the parking lot, where you designate a spot on the parking lot and get the supplies and people come and paint their square. Also providing sidewalk chalk, doing small quilt block squares for gardens, those sticker murals where people can come in just a few at a time. This could be socially distanced. If your library has limited hours, they could still come in and put a few stickers on the mural. Doing the color run, where you put on a white t-shirt and run, and people on the sidelines spray you with colors. And then Swank, some of you may have seen on Library Talk, the movie license place has given permission for some outdoor licensing. So doing some movies that pertain to that. So those were the main ideas we came up with.
I love all of those. I love most of those. I don't know if I'd be into adult finger painting too much. I'm kind of too much of a neat freak. We had some really, really fun ideas too, of course. So my room was talking about diversity.
Audio trouble.
I don't know who said that. If you are having audio trouble, Nancy, is my sound coming through okay?
I'm hearing you fine.
Okay, you can always use that little up caret next to the microphone to toggle your settings. The very first thing we talked about, of course, with the context of celebrating diversity in your community was food. So someone mentioned they have a couple great Mexican restaurants in town, and you could do a sort of partnership event to talk about the history and culture. Why are you here and how do we cook something together? I thought that sounded like a lot of fun. Another person mentioned that within the guide, there's a great program idea on multicultural colors and artists involving international examples of different illustrators to look at different styles and that kind of thing. I thought that was a great one, and something you could do sort of asynchronously as well. Have a display in your library up of different kinds of artists. You could easily socially distance people or have people come through a few at a time. Another great thought that I heard that I loved was involving, foreign exchange students. If your town has a foreign exchange student, that's a great way to celebrate that culture and that sort of partnership. And kind of paired with that, a sort of travel log type program where you could have someone come and present about where they've gone recently, or, and I said for COVID, maybe where they wish they could have gone recently, read a book from every continent for your summer book club kind of thing or something like that. And then we also heard from Rosalind about they used to have an international film screening program, which you could possibly revive if you could do it, socially distanced, get together and watch international films. So some great ways to talk about diversity there.
Nice ideas.
And we had some really great ideas. In fact, they were flying so fast, I had a hard time keep noting all of them. So I did save the chat. But somebody suggested eco-printing. So you take leaves and flowers and make a stew or a dye, and then color fabric and make stuff from or dye your fabric and make something.
Idea.
That could be a multi-week program, where you do one part of it one time and carry it through. I thought that was really an interesting one too. And then the colors of flowers, do something with all the different colors of flowers and stuff. Somebody suggested getting a county naturalist or a state naturalist in and do bird watching or other programs like that. But we really thought birds, there's so many different colorful birds. That would be a cool one. This takes it a little bit to the environmental aspect, not necessarily nature per se, but somebody like mending fabric with making art out of it as you mend a hole. Like if you have a hole in a jeans or something and you embroider around it and try to mend it and pull it together, but make kind of a flower or art or something, but it becomes more environmental. I liked that different take on nature. A houseplant swap, doing oil paintings of flowers or leaves or whatever. The Iowa State Insect Zoo, which isn't free, but you could easily socially distance. Floral planting, floral arranging. So you can bring in somebody from a floral shop and have them do all kinds of programs for you. Floral planting, how do you plant your planters so that you have a nice variety? Somebody also suggested a color run, a bingo card for parks to visit in your area. I thought was a good idea. A garden tour. I said maybe once everybody's done with their home renovations, they'll now work on their gardens this spring. So there might be some beautiful gardens in your community. Build a bird feeder. And a lot of these could be done as take and make things too with some online programming. And then sustainable gardening or community gardening came up as an idea. So lots of nature type things.
Group. Nancy, your group mentioned about visiting different parks. Some of you might be saying, what parks? We don't have any parks, or we only have one in town. What can we do? Think beyond your own immediate borders and send them county-wide. Surely you have multiple parks in your county. So that would be a way to kind of scale up that kind of program, or I guess I should say scale down, taking a bigger idea and making it work in a smaller community. Here's some of the ideas we had. So obviously with the color, the concepts of the art world, painting, coloring, knitting, sewing, quilting, and barn quilts. So my group came up with that concept. This could double as display opportunities. The manual on page 49 talks about Bad Art Night, which was actually a program designed specifically for the 20s and 30s somethings. So attracting that kind of hard to reach group. But they did this, the manual talks about how the presenter did this in a local kind of a hip coffee shop. With COVID, that might not be possible, but basically they gave everybody a canvas and some leftover craft supplies and some paint, and they asked them to turn in a piece of bad art. You could still do this, I think, COVID modification by providing everyone with a canvas, some leftover craft supplies, 3 bottles of paint in the primary colors, and let them mix their own colors, and then go online and have them display their art and talk about what they did. Maybe even give them some samples of some famous artwork and ask them to replicate it as bad art. Here's, if you want to do the barn quilts, the programming librarian. If you're not familiar with this website, it's an ALA sponsored spot. Lots of great ideas. This is the whole shebang here, how to do this kind of program, and look at the budget, $1 to $50. So it's very possible to do this. Some more ideas we talked about briefly earlier, some of these movies that go from black and white to color, like Wizard of Oz, Pleasantville, or ones that have been colorized, like It's a Wonderful Life, that originally came out in black and white, but then later was colorized, which, by the way, I refuse to watch it in color because, that's, I don't want it to ruin it, but it might be interesting to compare if somebody can get over their love for the original. Obviously, Wizard of Oz is one of my favorites. That is such a transitional film. I can't imagine what this was like for people in 1939 to see this black and white like they normally do, and suddenly it opens up into Technicolor. Wow, how awesome that must have been. But you could do this interactive movie. Now, with COVID, you would have to find a way to socially distance or show it outdoors, or maybe you provide the family kits with bubbles that they blow when Glenda appears, and candy hearts that they open a candy heart when the scarecrow says something. You can get those on sale after Valentine's Day and have it all ready for summer. So you could give them the interactive kit to take home and they could watch it on their own. Oh, what else did we come up with? Personality types. Yes, somebody in my group did mention this. You could do this in an informal way or have a professional come in. Page 92 in the manual does talk about color theory and design if you want more information. But those of you who are old enough, yes, I am. You may remember this book, Color Me Beautiful, which came out in the 1980s. And it was all about having your color palette complement your skin tones, your hair color, your eye color, and make you look beautiful all the time. And there you go. You can get it for $5 on the thrift shop book site. And hopefully you don't still have this in your collection at your library, but get it, read it. It's kind of fun. And then there is a personality type program known as True Colors. That's what it was always called. And it uses only 4 types to classify personality. And honestly speaking, this is one of the most effective and easiest to remember personality type programs. I used to assist a friend who was certified to present this back in my home state. And it was always a lot of fun. Great for team building. And you could have a presenter come online and do it. You do need a certified person to present this, but some ideas there for you. Finally, reading books with a color in the title. There were a few that Sam came up with on her own, but if you go into Google and just do a search such as I did for, I can't see it because my Zoom thing is in the line, exactly what I did, books with color word in title, you will get lots of results, including this wonderful Listopia from Goodreads, which has, count them, 562 books with a color word in the title. Surely your library has a few of those, and you could highlight those on your website, in your social media posts, in displays. So lots of fun things to do there. Okay, on diversity, biographies. Yeah, this is the time to highlight that collection. You can do displays, you can do social media posts, lots of things you can do with that in a book club, which could be online, socially distanced, biography, diverse voices. Again, Google is your friend. Just do a search for biography reading list and you will get more biography reading lists than you can count. 40 of the best. I'm not sure if those 40 best are the same ones that are on the 100 best, but and then there's the one list, 75 biographies to read before you die. So lots of opportunities there. And I wanted to point out and remind you that we do have a multiple copies list available on our website. So if you go to our website, click the blue For Libraries box, find the tab that has letter M for multiple copies. You can see libraries, what they own that have several copies of the same title, many of which are biographies. So take advantage of that. Vexillology. Not only is that a fun word to say, but that could be an interesting thing to have as a topic. It is the study of flags. So if you learn nothing else today, hey, you learned a new word, vexillology. Page 105 in the manual does have information about doing this. They recommend getting a history or a social studies teacher to do the program for you, but there is actually a formal organization known as the North American Vexillological Association, and I did have to practice saying that before this presentation. But they have lots of information on there. You could do a different state flag throughout summer, or you could focus on world flags, but lots of different colorful representations there, and maybe provide some education on the meanings of colors and flags. Lots of fun things you could do with that.
When we talked about
Community.
flags in our group discussion, Marianne, we also tied that into genealogy, kind of. So if
Ah,
you've got genealogical resources, lots of colors kind of involved in that process as well, and certainly flags.
yeah. Community conversations. If you need a grant for this, there is still that ARSL opportunity, the ALA grant. I have a slide on that coming up. Page 82 of the manual talks about the browns versus the blue. Some of you might be old enough to remember, actually. This was from 1968 when an Iowa teacher in a rural Iowa City school, she developed a unique way of demonstrating the damaging effects of prejudice and discrimination to her third grade class. So an interesting way to bring up a current topic in a way that highlights some Iowa facts. So here's information about that Libraries Transform Communities grant. The deadline is February 5th, so don't dally around. Get that in submitted. We have had 18 Iowa libraries already win the first round, so there's possibility we could have some more Iowa libraries get that, but they will give you $3,000 to have some community discussions. And then I get the newsletters from this organization that you see on the right. And, Zoom, I love it, but it always blocks exactly what I need to see. The National Issues Forums is what this is called. And they have a lot of interesting information, including resources, and they often give out grants, and it's all about having community conversations. So check that out. Also, don't forget about the Libraries Transform Communities training and tutorials and webinars. That this one I have here on the slide is an excellent one. It's for small, mid-size, and/or rural communities. And by ALA's definition, almost every single library in Iowa fits in this category, even our big ones, because ALA standards are pretty large. So check out the conversation cafes, because this is something really cool that you could do socially distanced and or in an online setting. One more, culture nights. You kind of mentioned this, Sam, your group did with exchange students. That's actually what I did, how it started out with a program I called Culture Nights back when I was working with teens in a library. Your manual talks about colors of your neighborhood, using a local historian and highlighting the local history at your community, maybe talking about the ethnic diversity in your area or the founding of your town. Which may have been done by a specific ethnic group. Here you can see a promo for a Culture Night event that I did. This was actually a series in a semester that we highlighted 4 different countries. And I talk about this in one of the webinars that's actually archived on our website or in our Iowa Learns, which is Chocolate and the Art of Programming. And the now retired director of Pella Library heard me talk about that and asked for more details. And she started this program at her library, which I believe they are still doing. And she wrote about this in that Programming Librarian blog resource that I pointed out earlier. So there's lots of information there, step-by-step instructions of how this can be done. Nature, flowers, obviously. Page 116 in the manual talks about edible flowers, which I thought was kind of a cool idea. And gardening in libraries is really a hot thing right now. So if your library can help partner with or sponsor a community garden, I think that's a great thing to do. My friend and colleague Noah Lenstra of Let's Move in Libraries just has an article and talks about this quite a bit, of gardening in libraries, which of course leads us to the aspect of vegetables, planting, growing, cooking, eating. I'm going to show you in just a moment what page 96 in the manual has for you. But Nancy learned about a program, I think just today, called Eat the Rainbow.
I was having a conversation with the Iowa Department of Public Health yesterday. We are starting to partner with them, and hopefully we will be making available to you a program that you'll be able to use with your community on eating the rainbow. And it's a nutritionist, I believe, who does it. And she talks about all the different colors and why it's important to eat all these different colored foods when you have a meal. So hopefully that's something that we'll be able to push out and you'll be able to utilize programming for your public. So maybe, and we might have more of that. We'll see what's available, but I was excited to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. I just did a quick Google search, vegetable cooking at library, and I was really fascinated to see that videos popped up first. And you can see some samples here. Let's Get Cooking, How to Make Vegetable Soup. This is a librarian who is teaching how to make vegetable soup, because you know what? I I joined a group on Facebook that has kind of a fitness, diet, health aspect. And I was shocked how many people didn't have a clue how to roast vegetables, didn't have a clue how to properly cut vegetables. What do you do with the pepper? So there's a need for this kind of thing. And here you can see one called the Library Kitchen. This is from Wayne County Public Library in Ohio. They evidently do this as a series. So kind of a cool idea, I thought. Again, this can easily be done socially distanced. The manual on page 96 has this really neat printout that you could pass out. I had no idea that all those little stickers, the little UPC things that are on your apples and your peppers and your everything that you buy at the grocery, those numbers mean something. I didn't know that. Maybe I'm just late to the game here. But this kind of explains what they mean. And then on page 97, I didn't give you a screenshot of it, but it's a chart that you can collect the stickers of the fruits and vegetables that you eat throughout the summer. So that's kind of a fun family type of activity, or individual too, just to see how many different fruits and vegetables you can eat during the summer. I thought that was really a neat idea.
Might be a good way to enter a door prize for the whole program.
Yeah, absolutely. Geology, we came up with this idea because rocks and gemstones, in particular, are so colorful. Maybe you could do a program on what birthstones mean, jewelry making. This was an article I found online of one of our own libraries here in Iowa, Marion. This was from a few years back, but they were painting these colorful rocks with messages, and that was really popular a few years back, but I think it might be fun to revive that. And here's another example from a library whose name I am not going to attempt to pronounce. This is in, can't remember if this was in Washington or New York, somewhere in my notes here. But you can see here in the center that they did the fascinating facts of gemstone jewelry. And they had a person from a local jewelry shop come and present that for them. So there you go. There's a partnership activity as well. Finally, photography contests, doing scavenger hunts, taking photos of certain things that might be on a bingo sheet type of thing. Or here's that local parks that some of you mentioned previously. There are helps online for this. The Ultimate Photo Scavenger Hunt Guide, 40 plus ideas and tips. There you go. I've got the URL for you. Or you could do it as a bingo hunt where you take maybe zoomed in photos of things that are in your area, and people have to really think, I know I've seen that somewhere. Where is that? And you just give them a snippet of something and they go on a search for it. So there again, like Nancy was saying, like a door prize type of award for the people who complete that. Finally, this kind of summarizes a little bit of all the categories. This is about window painting, kind of fits in with what one of the people in my group talked about, the parking lot painting. I got to do this when I was in 6th grade because my artwork was chosen to be painted on a window in downtown Evansville, Indiana. It was just so fun. Not that my artwork was that great, but they had a lot of windows they needed to fill. So I got to go downtown and we used temper paints and we painted the windows. And this is something you could schedule when the people come to paint your windows, assuming you've got some big windows at your library, and people can paint. Schedule them so they're socially distanced. It's outdoors, it's socially distanced, it involves art, it involves color. You could make it culture related. Lots of things that you could do, either paint your parking lot or decorate the sidewalk or paint the windows. So I think that pretty much wraps up. Whew, that was a whirlwind. Participation.
It was a whirlwind.
Great ideas.
I didn't count how many ideas we shared in all of that, but between the 3 groups and what we had with the slides, you've probably got enough to take you through about 3 or 4 summers.
I think so, but it's like Angie always says, if there's 50 ideas shared and 45 of them are horrible, throw 45 of them away. We're not offended. Not everything works for everybody. Okay, so we're going to go back into our breakout rooms for just a moment. Marianne, if you want to head to the next slide, this is what we will be discussing. So who is going to come to all these great events we just planned? So in room number 1 with Marianne, you're going to talk about where to recruit people. In the room number 2, facilitated by me, and we'll stay in the same groups, I think. That's what we decided, right? Or do you want me to shuffle people? We'll stay put. Maybe we'll shuffle next time. We'll see how talkative my group is. If they don't talk enough, I'm going to swap them out for other people. And then the third room, facilitated by Nancy, is going to talk about recruiting diverse participants. So, sound good? Anything I'm forgetting?
Here we go.
Here we go. All right, I'm going to ship us off to our breakout rooms, and we'll see you guys back here in a few minutes.
Things are getting cut out. I guess we're changing rooms here.
Yeah, Cynthia, I heard most of what you were saying.
So I put out special ads in the newspapers. We got front page ad space. We use the bank marquee, the city's new on the road marquee by the Highway 9 there. They let us do there through the chamber. I did a radio spot on our local radio station. And what else did we do? So I'd have to say that it certainly has brought our numbers up by doing that. But yes, and then we created a new Facebook page. We have a gal that was going to try to go to the schools, but the preschools got closed down due to COVID here this past week. So it has been a challenge getting the word out that we're at least trying to serve something.
Well, you heard some of the answers that came out of room 1. Where can you go to recruit participants? A really obvious one, if you're not already doing this, if you have a successful children's program and lots of kids activities and participation with that, target the parents of those kids.
Yeah.
Let them know what's happening.
We talked about that too.
Think about where the people are hanging out, or as one person said, or where they probably shouldn't be hanging out. But word of mouth is always great if you can find a way to get people talking about it. Personal invitations. We talked about how successful that can be, either through mailings or Cynthia was describing earlier that her board members went door to door, which is a great way to do this. Book stuffers, all those curbside bags of books that you're filling out, have a stuffer in there that talks about it. Local coffee shops, restaurants, bulletin board at the senior housing place, the newsletters that go out with your water bill, campgrounds. Somebody said her make and take activities are really attracting the 20s and 30 somethings. So anytime you give a make and take kit, put something in there about your summer reading program, farmers markets, church bulletins, your library's website, social media, of course, and any electric signs or marquees, which Cynthia was mentioning earlier too. Sam, what did you come up with?
Yeah, in my room, I heard some of the similar things. A lot of people partnering with county extension and master gardeners, and some great colorful opportunities there. One participant shared a sort of, I think this was in Guttenberg, a Chalk the Walk event where they can also partner with another group downtown, and they have some chalk and murals planned around the theme of Choose Hope. It's going to be a community-wide event that the library is involved in, it sounds like. In Bondurant, they had a coloring at the brewery program before COVID, and obviously before the summer reading theme was even announced, but there is a patio apparently, so hopefully can start up maybe a coloring at the brewery, which is a great way to reach diverse ages as well. And some, as we talked about, like sometimes there's going to be families there, sometimes there's going to be singles there, but kind of a fun thing. We talked about nursing facilities too, being able to maybe by the summertime being able to go into the nursing home with with activities, probably not having seniors come into your library, maybe, we'll just have to see. And then also a pretty successful program where you can collaborate with the rec center to check out different kinds of equipment for different kinds of games or things that could be done in the park.
Nancy, what did you come up with?
Well, we talked about how do you find diverse participants and kind of reaching out. And so we talked about colleges and clubs and organizations, talking to local residents who are from other places and see if they want to either present or will help bring people in to your program. Somebody said they had a new Indian grocery store in their community, and wouldn't it be fun to partner with them and learn about that different food and how to use it in recipes, because it's also profitable for that person, because it's going to get more people into their store.
Yeah, that sounds like a great partnership.
We talked a lot about family programming as opposed to just adult programming, just because that tends to be in the smaller communities. What happens if an adult comes, they have to bring their kids with them. Right. And so how that would work. A really good idea was from the hairstyling with braids and beads, and doing a programming on that might really attract a lot of different people to that. I liked that one. Plus, it would be really colorful, because those beads are all really colorful. The deaf community was a diverse community that you don't tend to think about all that often, but having, it's just making sure you have a sign language interpreter there. So that everybody can understand. I said I used to sell baskets to the deaf community a lot. So that was interesting. You'd go into their homes and there were a lot of them. I was shocked at how many there were. A cultural potluck or a cook the cookbook program, which would be harder in COVID. And we all agreed on that, because the fun of that is when you all cook something from around the world and then you bring it together and you have a potluck at the end. But that would just be a lot more difficult this time.
That would be one that you could possibly do as an online program where you had a guest presenter maybe each week or each month, depending on the size of your library, how much staff you have and how many presenters you might be able to do, but that they could present an easy recipe that's a little more ethnic. Yeah, neat.
And you could always even do a make and take of that, depending, if you're making something with one weird ingredient, maybe pass out that ingredient to anybody who's willing to try to make it. Yeah. There's ways to do it.
Samantha, you want to run through what we came up with?
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of this has been mentioned. We did talk in my group about partnering with other county libraries. So if you don't have a farmer's market in your town, but there's one up the road, work with that library to get a display there, for example. Community members with special interests or talents. This kind of relates to some of the programming we talked about. So if you have someone in your town who maybe is a travel buff or can share about where they've been or that type of thing, but a great way to bring in some color. Local businesses, of course, we've talked about getting signs in the windows or story walks in the windows. Civic groups are another great way to not only reach diverse people, but just continue to get the word out. The more champions you have on those types of groups, which involve a lot of community leaders, the better off. Obviously, the extensions, we talked about some. And then just go where the people are. So this is like kind of our brewery example. If the people are at the brewery, and you've heard us say this last year and probably the year before, go to the brewery. So what did someone say? The places where people are and the places where they shouldn't be. But someone in chat mentioned the public pool. And so I think that's just a great way to get the word out about what you're doing too.
And it might be really a simple place. I know when I lived in a small town, I lived in a community of about 400 people. And Saturday morning, that's when everybody went into the town to go to the post office and the bank, and both had a bulletin board. And it was predominantly the bank bulletin board where that was the information spot in town. And if that's where people, they go to look for stuff. I've heard some small towns, it's the bulletin board at Casey's. That's where you want to put your information and make sure you get it out. And I would recommend changing it. Don't just put one notice up and leave it there the whole summer, because that'll get old. It'll get covered up. People won't look at it. Change it every week and make it more attractive, different color. And it is all about different colors after all. Make it colorful and eye-catching and change it regularly. What do we have next here?
Now we're going into prizes.
Prizes, yeah.
Oh man, my group had such a good one for prizes in the first section that I'm
You don't get to talk about it yet.
No, I know. I'm saving it. They had such a good one. Maybe it'll already come up.
Okay, so we're going to break into groups again. And Sam, are you going to shuffle them this time, or are we going to use the same ones?
Oh, what do you guys think?
I'm getting used to my group. They're not really talkative, but I'm thinking third time's a charm here. So I'm counting on them to be even more talkative this time.
All right, we'll stay put.
But we're going to talk about prizes this time.
All right, Marianne, can you go on to the next slide so we can be reminded?
Oh, yep, sorry about that.
No, sorry.
Yeah. So
Marianne's group. Oh, go ahead, Nancy.
Bill, Marianne's group is going to talk about rethinking prizes to attract diverse participants. Sam's room is going to talk about digital options for prizes, and my room is going to talk about colorful prizes.
I have
the easy one, I think.
I'm looking at the time. We're probably good to do 10 minutes here.
Okay.
And so we'll come back together in 10 minutes.
Okay, well, I think everybody's back, and my room did a great job with prizes. Really some good ideas. We mentioned that a lot of libraries are finding that experience packages are better than things. And so we talked about what are some experiences. Tickets to be able to go to a local garden area, like I never know if it's Riemann or Ryman Gardens, but you know what I'm talking about. Or if there's a botanical garden or some similar place in your community, something like that. Oh, lava lamp. Somebody said these are available at Target now. So that's kind of retro. Might be kind of fun, and that's definitely colorful. Using some of those things you get as thank you gifts from Quill and Demco, the cooler sets, the cutlery sets, the tote bags. That's a great way to be able to utilize those. Instapot, wood burning kit. This one I love. It seems that Bob Ross knows no age barrier. Everybody loves Bob Ross, even people who weren't old enough to remember him from their childhood. But evidently there are some Bob Ross paint by number kits available, so that might be something fun. Ancestry DNA kits, local gift certificates for various business, ice cream tokens. One library has, their Chamber of Commerce has chamber bucks to local businesses, so that was kind of cool. I can't remember who said this. Was it Sonia? I'm not sure. I don't remember. But she said they did not wait for people to finish to get a prize or to put their ticket in a drawing for a prize. Every week they mailed out to their participants something that was flat and small and could be mailed in a regular envelope, such as bookmarks or coupons for an ice cream cone or for a local restaurant treat, a cookie or something. And they mailed those every week and got a lot of positive feedback about that because that kept the program in the mind of their folks. So those were some of the good things we came up with. Also, gaming baskets. So because board games have such bright colors in them.
Oh yeah.
Those are good ideas.
Yeah, we talked some about the digital stuff, but we kind of got some colorful ideas and some non-digital ideas too. But for some digital ideas, you could do local or non-local gift cards. So we mentioned even something like Netflix. If you do a movie night or something, you'll come to all 3 summer movies and get entered in a drawing to win a Netflix gift card, that kind of thing. One thing we talked about is like, instead of doing a traditional gift basket where you have to, come to the library and pick it up and handle it, you could arrange something maybe through like a Hy-Vee aisles online or Instacart kind of thing where a prize is delivered directly to someone's house instead of having to come to the library if you really are trying to keep things no contact. Not an option in every community, of course, but we talked about the DNA kits during our first one too, and I thought that was kind of a fun idea for a digital prize and something related to kind of the genealogy, ancestry, colorful types of things, privacy disclaimer included type thing. But And then we also mentioned, Marianne, you will recognize this one. Someone said you could give away tickets to a virtual event that you might not normally otherwise be able to go to. I know Marianne recently attended the virtual Des Moines Symphony. So something like that, where you could go to do a museum tour or a musical cultural event. So
Great ideas.
Yeah, those are great ideas. I think digital ones would be harder to come up with. We had some good ones too. Somebody suggested plant seeds. Walmart in the past has been known to give out hundreds of them, of little seed packets. So, you could choose very colorful vegetables or really colorful flowers. A set of paints and colored pencils, or coloring books and markers. Tie-dyed masks we thought were really appropriate for this year. And you can either make them or you can order them. The insulated cups with liners that come out, and you can color however you want and then put them back in your cup. I'm pretty sure you can get those from Oriental Trading or some similar place. The color changing cups, so depending on what the temperature of your beverage is. We talked about baskets, doing both individual gifts for everybody who participates and bigger gifts for like drawings or whatever, baskets of art supplies, having a local artist donate something, or have something, whether you pay for it or not. Grab bags of craft supplies that you've put together, just cleaning out your craft closet. We talked about candy and Jelly Bellies, and doing, somebody talked about a taste testing of all the different colors of M&Ms. And so having that prize be all the different colors of M&Ms would be fun, which is then when Jelly Bellies came into it, and all different kinds of candies. You could use candy. Candy is very colorful. Gift certificates to local places. Mara talked about the different colored dried beans and how you could use those and attach a recipe to it or whatever. Somebody suggested a quilt, which would be a really fabulous gift. Food jars that you could do colorful things such as salads or soups or whatever. The drink mixes that you put in water that change your water to lots of colors. Mandalas. This one would be a harder one. We talked about it, in a little bit messy maybe, but with the different color sands that you do pictures and stuff with. Flower arrangements, edible flower arrangements, grocery store food baskets. Again, you could do it online if you didn't want the contact. A wine and canvas class certificate. I did suggest different kinds of wine. You have red wine, you have white wine, there's pink wine, there's different colors of alcohol. Colorful bandanas. One town had a rodeo in it every summer, and so giving out different colored bandanas would be appropriate in that case. A rainbow set of books, somebody said. That pretty much ties them up, I think.
Great ideas from all the groups. Here's what we came up with. Nancy, you want to go through some of these?
Sure. Hold on, I got to get to that slide. So,
Marianne, I missed this in the run-of show. I did not mean for the prizes for dudes to stay in there word for word. I thought we might give examples of prizes for dudes. I put that in there as a note.
I personally liked it. So you could do family prizes like movie nights or coloring packages.
Or the games that we talked about
Or
earlier.
Games, yes. Because there's so many good family games. Puzzles, jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah, puzzles too.
That type of thing, something, and again, food, maybe add some, if you're doing a movie night, add popcorn or chips and stuff, or candies. Prizes for dudes. So this one made me think a little bit. If you could do fishing lures, if you have, it's always hard to get men to come to some adult programming anyway. So do a program on fishing lures, on tying fishing lures, and then you could give some out as prizes.
Or grill sets,
tools.
Yeah.
All that kind of
gift
thing.
Certificates for those kind of breweries and things that you might have in your area.
I would like that. I'm not a dude.
Yeah, I know, but that kind of crosses all barriers.
Wine tasting, a beer tasting, a beer and food pairing, a beer and candy pairing. I heard that recently. I thought that was interesting. For diverse audience members, I'm not sure what we would do as much for this one.
I think the point was to
just think about,
go with something that's going to appeal to 60-year-old white females. try to think of something that's going to cover a broader base that would appeal to just about any age, gender, ethnicity, you know.
Yep. Flowers to plant. We've talked about that. You could add gardening tools and books and stuff to it, or a gift certificate from a flower place, gardening store. Gift cards to Casey's. Anywhere in the state that would work because Casey's is everywhere, and you can get food, you can get gas, you can get drinks, you can get all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
You can get lottery tickets, you can get, whatever. Foods that are colorful. So, think about all the different, your apples, your blueberries, your vegetables, peppers and carrots and green beans and broccoli and just the different colors, just purple broccoli, just really open people's eyes. Ethnic restaurant, gift cards, badges. So page 60 of the manual talks about badges, and there are some places that do them all the time. I'm not as familiar with how badges work, but that is definitely an option, and they
think about Fitbit. A lot of people are really into those Fitbit badges, or I'm pretty sure Zwift and Peloton also utilize badges. So if page 60 does talk about that, and they talk about it from the perspective of having done it successfully with roughly 7th graders. But I have a lot of adult friends who just really, really like gathering those Fitbit badges and bragging about that online. So that could be a possibility.
It becomes a competition.
You were talking about the beer and wine pairings. And somebody mentioned in the chat about beer and cupcakes. I just had a friend talk about when she recently did that. And I thought, beer and cupcakes, ooh, that just doesn't appeal to me. I love cupcakes. I'm not a huge beer fan. Mixing them together might not work well in my stomach, but
the beer and candy, I thought the same.
It is a thing. And Heather has shared about mandalas on old LPs, old records, which I can't open right now, and I'm for some reason, but I'm not going to try it because it might just boot me out of here and I'll mess up everything. So, but evidently that's a really cool thing. So click on the link that she shared there.
And Jackie talked about Beanstack, and that I meant to bring that up because there are some of those programs that people use for summer reading, and there's a variety of them, but they do use badges. And so think about if you've never incorporated them before, doing that this year with your adults too.
And Justina makes a good point there in the chat. So I'll just leave that there. We won't quote that one on the recording here. So.
I'll just say about the badges, within all the graphics, you can find numbered and unnumbered badges from all of the artists. So if you are using Beanstack to award prizes or another program that requires a digital badge of some sort, you can easily grab those.
All right, Sam, we are on our final concept here.
Can you drop us down?
Oh, yes. I always forget. You actually need this slide to talk about it.
Yeah. So Marianne's group is going to talk about colorful displays. My group has digital promo, and Nancy will talk about community-based. And I am going to maybe dump us down to about 7 minutes for this one in our breakout room, because I know we have a couple of wrap-up slides and we've got about 20 minutes left in our time together. And I know people are going to be getting sleepy. So if you need to stand up, take a stretch break, get a drink of water before our sprint to the finish here, now's your chance. Otherwise, we'll see you in the breakout rooms.
Okay, well, that time went by fast.
It did. I thought we're not going to have anything to talk about, and then here I was talking away and we got cut off.
Yeah. Okay, so my group had some great ideas. We talked about the fact that maybe your library isn't open yet or open on a limited basis, in which case you can still make your display and take pictures of it and post it online on your website, on your Facebook page, any other social media accounts that you have. Doing a chalk mural on the sidewalk, obviously creating fantastic window displays, maybe having your staff in colorful shirts, perhaps designating a day of the week. Monday is Blue Day, Tuesday is Yellow Day, and then posting pictures of them. Somebody mentioned making tie-dye shirts for their staff. I said that could be a program and a display of sorts where you show the staff how to make a tie-dye shirt to your audience and then show the staff wearing the results. Justina talked about making paper chains and sending the colorful papers home with families to make the paper chains at home, and then bringing them back to the library and putting them all together and stringing them across the ceiling of the library. How cool that could be. And of course, posting pictures of it. Digging out your Christmas tree again with colorful lights and putting summer reading theme hangings on it. We talked about making stained glass on a front door or front window. That's where you take painter's tape and block off geometric shapes and then fill in the spaces with colorful paint. Take off the painter's tape and it is gorgeous. It really does look like stained glass. Instead of going on a bear hunt like a lot of communities did early on in COVID, go on a rainbow hunt or some other colorful thing that you could encourage your residents to put in their windows. And we just caught the tail end. Our last idea was about egging. You take a biodegradable type of egg and inside it's filled with glitter or colorful confetti, and it's like a snowball fight. You have an egg fight. And how fun would that be to put those eggs hidden in your community's yards? So great ideas from my group.
Stay away from my house with your glitter eggs, please.
Yeah, you'd want to do that outside.
Outdoor activity. Obviously.
Yes. We had a good discussion about how to use QR codes. Someone mentioned that when you design in Canva, you can, even the free version of Canva, someone tested it for us, you can get a QR code built right in there. So if you're doing a take and make, for example, and you just have a small flyer in there, you can have a QR code that links to more information. That kind of thing. Someone's got an ad that runs on the local TV station, sending out a weekly newsletter. I think it was in Altoona. No, sorry. Was it Bondurant mentioned that they're doing that? They launched a library TikTok where they have kind of behind the scenes videos happening of what's going on in the library. And so it's not necessarily summer related, but a good way to have a fun digital presence in your community. You know, we're not just reading back here, we're repairing books or that kind of thing. And then, yeah, staying active on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, that kind of thing is also a great way to just kind of the more content you have, the more regular content you have,
Right.
the more engagement you'll have. So
Good. Nancy, what did your group come up with?
So we came up with a lot actually, and some ties into the digital too, such as like community calendars. A lot of times they're online, and social media groups. So you have like different groups in Facebook that you can tie into. A lot of times there's like, I know Ankeny has a swap and meet. I know Des Moines has a swap and meet. So those are probably everywhere in the state where you can try to sell stuff. We talked about local newspaper and radio, Chamber of Commerce newsletters, bulletin boards, community bulletin boards, especially in small towns, are really where things get communicated. Sending flyers home with kids at the end of school. Rolling announcement boards. So somebody talked about their community center had one of those digital boards where the announcements just roll across on a feed, and being able to tie into that to do things. Utility bills, water bills, sending things that way. Community calendars. Oh, I talked about that one. Summer lunches. One library participated in summer lunches, and that was a good way to get the word out to different people. A pop-up produce stand or a pop-up food pantry, being able to communicate. You get different people going to those kinds of things. So a good way to communicate that way. Word of mouth, as always, is, especially if you have a successful program, then that spreads really, really well.
Right.
And if it's possible with COVID, doing a kickoff in town square.
Okay. Well, we had a few ideas of our own. Sam, you want to run through these in our last few minutes here?
yeah, I think we kind of have talked about all of these. I love colorful book displays. You know, every week could be a different color. You know, reading through the rainbow kind of thing.
Here we go.
Some examples.
Yeah.
And somebody might just find that book they want with the red cover.
I told my group that I used to manage a department where we racked our brains coming up with different themes and pulling books through our searching the catalog for books. And one time when we were short on staff and short on time, we said, just put out the red books. And that was the most successful display we ever did. And so we just started doing by color. It's very eye-catching. So there you go.
Yeah, and I also think this is a great way you can do displays on kind of diverse diversity elements as well. So maybe it's a mile in their shoes kind of display if you're doing a biographies kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Wrapping up here, any other considerations? I think we've covered quite a bit. I hope you took good notes. We did record this if you missed it. And Sam, I think we're making the slides available.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So Samantha, I think you're going to.
Yeah, I can take us through this one. We we want at the state library, we want you to know that this summer is a lot, and there's a lot going on. And so put on a good program for your community if you can. But you have to do what works for you. You're an individual with needs and with thoughts and with feelings, and you don't have to do everything.
Right.
You don't have to do everything. So do what works for you as a librarian and as a person. If there's something that's out of your depth, don't do it. If you don't feel comfortable with that piece of technology, you don't want to learn how to use TikTok, don't. So you'll have opportunities throughout the summer, but the important thing is to take care of yourself. It's been a difficult year. 2020 was not a normal summer. 2021 is not going to be a normal summer. So just take care of yourself. Do what works for your staff and your budget. Some of the things we threw out here would take a huge team of people to pull off, or a ton of money to pull off, or a lot of money. I don't think any library has a ton of money laying around, but something like a stand at the farmer's market is going to be a lot easier than a community-wide glitter egg effort. Perhaps I'm going to pick
that
on
is
the
a
glitter
lot of
eggs
fun, I
again.
have to admit.
And then do what works for your community. We talked about lots and lots of ways to take the color theme. If you think genealogy really is not going to fly in my community, don't do that one. But if you think, a community-based discussion on brown versus blue is really going to go over well, do something like that. Or I think my community really maybe needs to engage in this. You can be a thought leader on that. So nothing here has to be prescriptive. Everything here is just ideas.
And as we said earlier, do not try to compare yourself with the library down the road or the librarian in the next county over. You do you. And if that means 3 programs throughout the summer, that's fantastic, because you're going to be a rainbow in somebody's cloud by doing those 3 rainbows. If it's every week, that's great. Whatever you can do, again, based on your community, your staff, your budget. So I know
there's no one judging you.
Right. Heather said she has 4 pages worth of notes. Holly asked, can we get the access to the chat? I have to say, I did not save it in my room. I didn't think about that. And sometimes we got blipped out before I would have even been able to do that. Samantha, is that possible to go back and get those or not?
I don't know about that.
I saved it, the first one, but then I forgot to save it the other ones.
I have the typed up notes from my group. So I don't know if Marianne and Nancy, you guys were kind of taking notes as we went in your room. Maybe we can type those up and get them sent out at the very least. But if you are watching the recording, we do not have recordings of the breakout room sessions, which is why we tried to do a kind of a more thorough recap.